All right, time now for another Longhorn Education podcast, and really excited to be joined by Longhorn borrower Randy Melgar. Randy, thanks so much for being with us today.
Yes, sir. Hey, no, thank you guys. Hey, without y'all, hey, I wouldn't even be here. So, hey, thank you.
Well, I hope you'd be here without us. Right? you existed well before us and will long after. But it's been great getting to work with you, and I think one of the things I love about working with you, you're so on top of it. And you came to us a year ago. I want to, I guess, start with your investing journey, though, because you got into investing before you came across Longhorn. So how did you decide that real estate investing was something you'd want to do, and how did you kind of push yourself to get in the waters at first?
I want to say, confidently I can say, it comes down to, how I was raised. Like, we were talking earlier, my father, he's been doing construction and remodeling houses in all over DFW for like 25 plus years. And, even growing up as a little kid, to make a little bit of money here and there, I'd be like, hey, Dad, let me go with you. And then, slowly I was like, dang, it's a lot of work. But somehow, for some reason, I was still like attracted to it. I just love seeing the progress of a house being completely gutted, seeing how everything works and then seeing the final product. So for me, it kind of just went to what I enjoyed, and that's for me, something that's still keeping me going.
All right, I'm gonna level with you. My next door neighbor works at Longhorn, and he is super handy. I am not. I will call him over to like just hammer a nail in the wall. Right, so
I got tape.
I would not fit in on your dad's crew. But when you were around him, what were you? Like what were you good at, and what were you not good at, just from like the handy side of things?
So of course, I like to think everybody has the strengths and the weaknesses. One thing, and I guess since I was still a little kid growing up, as older as I was getting, I started learning more and more. But I first started just kind of helping out, passing tools here there, and for me, like I feel like everything that I was doing was for a reason, because I was passing him a tool, and I was like, I wonder what this does. And I saw him, I saw it in action. So for me, it was kind of like a big learning thing, too. Even if it was something as nobody wants to do it, but sweeping the floors, it's part of it too, because if you keep the whole work, and the whole, workspace clean, it's, it actually helps for like the progress of things. So for me, every little thing that I was learning on the way, to where I am now, I feel like even if it's the smallest detail, it has, played a crucial part into growing into, to where I am now.
Yeah, well, we've talked before. Details are such a big part of being an investor, and not zooming through certain things and taking shortcuts. Is there a tool that you most enjoy using, like a chainsaw or something?
That's okay, so this is a really simple tool. It's a caulking gun.
Yeah.
For me, man, it's more of like a relaxing kind of thing too. Like, for example, like on the baseboards, right? And I'm telling you, once like, I'm pretty sure you know what this is, right? The caulking gun.
Oh yeah, that's like the one thing I actually have done with my wife over the last 12 months. Is we had to caulk something around our garage. I went to Lowe's or Home Depot, and I had to ask all the dumb questions. They probably were like, gosh, you have no clue what you're doing. But a YouTube video later, and I think we figured it out.
Yeah, and like I said, it's probably the most, simple tool to use. But for me, man, it's more of how, once you apply it and how it leaves, like, like the finished, like, looking at it. For me, that right there is probably the most like satisfying tool to use.
You smooth it out and everything looks,
I don't know why, but I just like, like when things get finished off, precisely. And then I first met, oh man, I was bad at it. I was like, how can I be bad at something so, simple? But hey, it just takes, with time, so even the smallest of things, over time you'll get better at it. But oh man, at first, even my dad was like, no, do it again. I was like, oh man, I thought I was doing it right. But I guess I wasn't. But hey, now I can do it, without even.
Let me tell you something. You are looking at someone right now who has demonstrated the ability to be bad at things that, even a 3-year-old could probably master. So a caulking gun too. I mean, like when we did it, I don't even know. Your dad would probably look at the work that I did and was like, this stinks, dude. You need to go back to work and get better. But I was I walked away from that with my head held high. I was like, I did this. This is awesome.
And look, and the thing about my dad, oh man, he's not a perfectionist. Well, actually, yeah, he's a perfectionist. Like he wants everything to be done right. You know, because he's a firm believer that if you don't do it right the first time, you know, having to do it a second time, that's, you know, that's not good. You know, so he likes to leave things, you know, pretty much, boom, like said and done. And for me, that kind of helped out a lot because, you know, I know how things should be left. And then he's always the person that if you're 15 minutes early, you're still too late. So I'm like, dude, like, what the heck? So, you know, I was always kind of like, I always like to get there way before, you know, kind of like a little bit ahead of time.
Well, even today, you know, I told you, hey, you know, we're going to kick off around 9:30. You want to get here like 9:25, and you got here like 9:10. Man, so you're living proof.
And, you know, here in DFW, man, the traffic is, you know, so, man, it's like, you know, always taking into account, okay, traffic might be there. And then it's a little bit, you know, I don't know if it was raining this morning or early in the morning, but there was some rain out there, too, you know, so you know how that goes when a little bit of water, man, people start crashing. It's like it attracts them. I don't know why, but so yeah, man, I'm always taking into account little things, so just so I can, you know, just make things, you know, smooth as they can be.
Well, details are obviously a huge part of this, and you know, whether you're an investor or, you know, from a home buyer standpoint, they're looking for the details, and the details sometimes turn them away from, you know, an opportunity or you know, get them to want to dive in. So when you're selling a house, you know, making it appealing to the buyers, those details really make a difference. But I want to ask you, so you had a little bit of a knowledge base because of your upbringing with your dad and what he did, but what's the biggest difference when you think back to when you got going around 2020 to where we are now here in 2025 as an investor? What do you remember about that first project and all the different lessons that maybe you learned, or the one prevailing lesson that you learned that has helped you along the way?
Yeah. So, you know, before I did my first, you know, property, you know, we were doing, like, you know, clients' houses, you know, so when it came to that, you know, obviously, even now, you know, every little detail matters, but when we were doing, you know, everybody else's, you know, houses, we had time, you know, and when I got to that first house, I kind of started, you know, that's when I was like, okay, we got to pick it up.
And let me ask, when you're saying when you're doing other people's houses, are these retail, like their own personal homes, or are these for like investment deals as well?
It was for both. It was, you know, people's personal, you know, houses, and then also, you know, we worked for, it was like 3 guys, you know, they worked together. And they did what I'm doing now.
Got it. So you got to see it through that lens from an investor as well. Yeah. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And then for them, and we were doing houses like, man, all over. And I say we, you know, but I was over there just helping, you know. But I like to think
you're a part of it.
I was still, even if it's a small little thing I did, you know, I did my part, you know.
Hey, you had a jersey. You have a jersey on the team. Yeah.
Right. Even if I'm on the bench, hey.
Yeah.
I'm still right there cheering, helping out. Right. So, but yeah. So going from that, you know, and then to my properties, I was like, okay, so we got to do things still, you know, properly. You know, it's got to look good, but we got to do a little bit faster, you know. So that's one thing that, you know, getting going on my own has shown that, you know, we got to kind of, you know, be productive, but at the same time, you know, still keep the quality there.
So I think that's great you bring that up, because for anyone, does it make a tremendous difference if they're in our loan for 3 months and 2 weeks versus 3 months and 3 weeks? No, but the sooner you can get out of our loan, you know, the better off you are, right? That probably means you've sold the house or you've refied if it's a rental. So how do you work quickly, but not work through some of the details and still do it quickly, but do it right?
Well, that's kind of a tricky one because, like I said, you know, fortunately on my side, you know, we already had like the people that, so we have the game plan when we get any property, right? And with the people that we got, we already know, okay, we got to start this, we got to do this first. Let's say roofing, you know, that can get done whenever because we got roofers that come in and they don't deal with anything on the inside, right? So we already have the game plan already set, you know. So and that always, you know, that goes back to, like I said, you know, fortunately on my side, you know, my father and my brother, you know, they already kind of know how things go. So it's more just about, you know, getting the property, getting the plan set, and then, you know, get straight to it. You know, and for others, you know, it could be a little bit different, you know, because, I mean, a big thing, too, is, you know, having the right people, you know, around you. You know, so that's, and I guess that always varies, you know, for everybody, you know. But for me, you know, luckily, you know, with their help, and that's what I'm saying, like me, I feel like what I do isn't even like the big part of the whole equation, you know, because if it wasn't even for them, you know, the equation would be a little bit more, you know, complicated, you know. But slowly, you know, going at it still.
So. Yeah, well, and I mean, you obviously have a level of trust and proof of concept with your crews and the people who are working on the house, and that's such a huge thing. People, I think that they strive to find that, right? And sometimes you find it on your first try, and you got a crew, and you use them for your next 10 deals, and you're good to go. Yeah. But I know with you'll sometimes text me. It's a closing date that's middle of the month, so we're not worried about any kind of foreclosure. But hey, when are we getting this done? When are we getting this done? Because I got my crew ready to go, and the minute that they can get in there, you have them ready to go in there, so that when that clock starts, you're already working on it, right? And I think that you push me to make sure, hey, is this closing today? That was the plan, right? Is it closing today? Because I got this crew lined up. I want to get going, and I think that's a big part of it. And it's not, my guess is it's not speeding up and, you got a sheet of math problems and you're trying to be the first one to finish and you overlook, that, it's a plus sign, not a minus sign or whatever. Yeah. But it's about just being organized and having stuff. You talked about the plan, that organization and that ability to ensure that the people working on the house stick to that, right? Having that level of communication is probably huge too.
Oh, yeah. And then first, let me give a shout out to Jared. Hey, man, you're always on top of it too, man. So if it wasn't for you, man, it would be kind of, difficult to, acquire the properties at the right, timely manner. So, man, thank you.
My man, appreciate it.
But yeah, man, but for me, whenever I see a property that I like, and I do want to acquire it, I already have the game plan already kind of, in motion. I I already saw the house. I already know what it's gonna take. First off, demo or whatever it is. Whatever the case is. But yeah, man, I would say having a plan, and for anybody that even wants to get into this, I would say having a plan and a budget too. That's a big thing right there.
Do you feel like, and again, I think because of the track record you have, the relationship you have with the people doing the work on your house, obviously, like I said, trust, that's a huge part. But what are some of the tips you've learned in creating a budget? Because I think that's one of the things. I think sometimes borrowers will come to us without the knowledge base that you had just from your upbringing, and they obviously want to do the necessary work, but they want to do it for the cheapest cost. Yeah. And I think sometimes there's a balance, right? You want to, you want to save money. You want to create more opportunity in the margins, whenever that presents itself. But you also want to make sure the work's done right. And then also you want to make sure that you are not presenting a bid that is going to undershoot what the reality is significantly.
Now, in the past, I've tried to go that route, finding the cheapest, contractor or subcontractor or whoever, that I, for example, like rewiring a whole house. You obviously, saving the most you can is key, but with that too, there could go a couple of things. There either goes quality away, or the time away, because somebody that's doing something for not what they could get, they're not going to, take their time and make sure everything's done right.
Yeah, that house that's paying them twice as much or has twice as much work for them.
They're going to be more on top of that one than they will on the one that's not lowballing, but not making what they should be making.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I guess it's about trial and error. And for me, in order for me to expand, I've been trying out different guys too. Some have worked, some haven't. But I guess that's with this business, there's a little bit of risk involved. But I like to think as long as you calculate that risk, even if something goes wrong, you can still maybe salvage it. So. Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of finding the right people. Yeah.
All right, well, let's use that as a perfect segue. How did you find us? Because you got into investing. You had a few years under your belt before we interacted. We obviously didn't do a good enough job finding Randy for those first years. But how did you come across Longhorn, and what were your initial thoughts when you found out that we existed and learned a little bit about what we do?
So. I've used quite a good, amount of lenders. I don't even want to mention them because for me, hey, now that I'm at Longhorn, I don't even worry about them anymore. But so one of my good friends, and I've known him for like I want to say almost about 10 years now, even a little bit more than that. I was like, dude, you know, the cash to close on some of these lenders, man, it's kind of, you know, it's like a crazy number. And he was like, dude, I got you. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, Longhorn. And I was like, okay, well, who's that? Well, what can I do to, you know, to get a loan, or what do I do? He's like, look, I'm going to put you in contact with my good guy, Jared. And I was like, all right. And then that's when I texted you. And then, you know, here we are. So, man, yeah, it's and like I said, too, my close friends, they all do this, you know, and we're the kind of people that, you know, we love helping each other out. And especially him, man, he's his knowledge and you know, his experience in this, you know, field for me too has been a you know, an immense amount of help, because he, you know, he's been able to, like, you know, present me to the right people. For example, in this case, you know, with Longhorn. So yeah, man, he's a big part of, you know, why I'm still, you know, going at it too.
What's the biggest difference in your experience with us at Longhorn compared to some of the lenders, other than just the cash to close? I'm guessing if the cash to close was higher, they weren't doing 100%. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, so the ability to do 100% of purchase and repair. And I'd even say too, Randy, I think, you know, I was looking back, you did a deal that was like, it was 90, ended up being like 98%, right? Like it didn't cover it 100%. I think there's just a little bit left over. But even that, I think sometimes we have people that come to us and they ask, and maybe they understand it, but they just ask it in a way where it's like, well, either I can bring you a deal that's 100% covered, or maybe I'm SOL, but it doesn't. Listen, we can do 100%.
No.
We also have deals where we do 99%. And let me tell you something, 99% is better than 90%,
Oh, yeah.
right? And so I think it's great because we always talk about 100%, 100%, 100%, and we do so many of those deals. But we also do a lot of deals where still, if you use us, all right, maybe it's 98%. Well, that's all right. You're bringing 2% down compared to the 10, 15% down you might have to bring using someone else. So I'm glad that, you know, you're an example of that. But what are some of the other differences beyond just the cash to close in your experience?
Man, I think it was just more of a, the communication side of things too. Like I said, you know, I text you, and then, you know, whether you're busy, you know, or you got something going on, you still, you know, like, hey, all right, you know, I'm busy right now. I can put you, you know, with you know, my assistant or whoever, you know. But for me, I think communication is key. And, you know, not to say that they weren't communicating, but they just weren't communicating to the point where, like, okay, you know, I needed something, but they were taking their time. So it kind of it kind of did bother me, because, like I said, I'm always on top of things on my side of things, you know. So, and I would like the same thing to be, you know, kind of, you know, vice versa, you know. So for me, communication, and, you know, with Longhorn, that's been a big thing for me too.
And you're great, because I know if I need something from you, it gets done right away too. Or, hey, I'm tied up right now, I'll get it done in 3 hours or whatever. And then, you know, I never have to follow up with you because it gets done in 2 hours, you know. And so, which, you know, that makes, I'd say this for people listening, you know, we want to provide the best communication for our borrowers, but, you know, our borrowers communicating back with us is huge. Whether it's, hey, you know, we need these documents, and the borrower being on top of it, because that allows us to move, you know, from step to step, or just letting us know when stuff isn't going right. Or, you know, I think, Randy, with you, there was a deal we had that the seller ended up backing out, and you know, and that's a part of it. But you communicated. I think sometimes people are hesitant because they think that it's like a wart or a stain that's not going to go away, and we're going to view them differently. And I would just tell any borrower, we've seen it all. We know that this game is not easy. We know that there are bumps in the road, and we want to be able to support our borrowers as best as we can. And we can only support our borrowers when we know what's going on, right? And so for you, when they backed out, there's nothing we can do other than, you know, pat you on the back and say, hey, go get the next one. We'll be ready to go.
You lose some, but you got to keep going, you know. So,
but yeah, that communication is huge. Now, I want to ask you, the deals you've done with us, I imagine not all of them have gone smoothly from an execution standpoint, whether it was with us or just the process. Was there a deal or a challenge within one of those deals that stands out? It was a good learning experience, or just an example to show people, hey, best laid plans, but, you know, it doesn't always work out that way. You can still get across the finish line.
Now, the one, you know here in Texas, right, how it could be sunny one day and then storming the next day. Now, obviously, there's a lot of other factors too, but for me, I think, and it's the detail that I think is vital, because let's say, for example, if it's raining, the roofers can't do the roof. So for me, I think looking at the weather too, even if it's just kind of looking down a couple of days in the the next couple of days coming, but man, the weather, that's something that's also been well, for example, like in this past a couple of deals, with the whole winter time, the weather has been something that you can't control. So you got to plan according to that as well. So yeah, man, weather, I think, and I only because here in Texas, I don't know about where where everywhere else people do deals at, but yeah, man, weather, that's a big one right there.
So okay, so out of your control, right? But what do you do to help make sure that it doesn't totally derail the deal, and even if it delays things, that there's still progress being made?
Yeah, so like I said, I always look a couple of days ahead. So, for example, if it's going to rain, tomorrow, I already know, okay, at least we can still work inside, so I kind of make sure.
So you'll rearrange kind of what's on the to-do list.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing, too, it's just, you can have a plan set, but you just got to be ready to adapt and, change and, still find a way to, go around it and keep going. But then once you can go back to it, get it done then. But, yeah, so it's just a matter of having a good plan, but also having the backup plan in case, that plan isn't going, as smoothly as you want it.
And I guess in those situations, that's just, you got to obviously think through the plan, but then communicate with your GC or your subs, and they got to, hopefully be on board and flexible as well. So it's clear you've got a great setup. And you mentioned earlier, it's been some trial and error, right? Mm-hmm. You've used some guys, some gals, hasn't worked out, has worked out. You build your team. And I think that's one of the things we talk about with borrowers. You never know when the right opportunity is going to hit, and you might not have the perfect runway to jump in. Sometimes you just got to be ready to take off. But having a team in place, knowing who you turn to for this, who you turn to for that, who you turn to for this thing. I got this problem. This is who I'm going to reach out to. I got a question about this. Having that knowledge base, I imagine, is a lot more comforting as you've gotten more and more experience.
Oh yeah, and then look, I like to always tell myself I'm never gonna know everything, and I don't want to know everything. I'm always glad I'm learning every day. But I would say one thing too. And if another event comes up that you guys do, let me know, because that's also a good way, like, to somebody that wants to get into this, when they go to those networking events, they can get another feel for, like, more about this whole business. They can even meet people there. So yeah, man, those I guess, and the one thing that I do like doing is communicating and just networking. That's one thing that I would say is one of my strengths. I'm not the best at being hands-on. I know how something should be left, like how work should be, properly done. But so for me, I'm just the kind of the communication kind of guy, So, I just like, going to networking events. So if you got another one going, man, let me know.
I wish I could say that I asked you to ask that, because we do.
Hey,
and I think we just started. I think we just started promoting it yesterday.
Well,
but May 29th.
Yeah, I'll be there.
5:30 to 7:30. I think it's 5:30 to 7:30 at Chicken and Pickle in Grand Prairie.
Yeah.
We're going to do...
Hey, pickleball, man. That's a whole other story right there. Hey.
We're going to have... one half is going to be pickleball. People will be able to play. We're also going to have one court dedicated to an instructor teaching people if they want to learn. And then the front half will have a few speakers and hopefully, like you said, bringing people together, continuing to build our community and bring people into our community and having them grow their own. So... we'll see you there. Chicken Pickle, May 29th, 5:30.
I'm going to be doing the playing and the learning too, man, because pickleball, man, it's...
and the eating and the drinking, right?
Oh, yeah. That's already going to be there no matter what.
You can do the eating on the front end, or eat, and then you play, so the calories don't count, right? You burn them right off. So eat whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's like free calories. All right, I got two last questions for you. One, if someone were to come to you and say, hey, Randy, I'd like to get into this, I need a lender, I hope you would say Longhorn, right?
Oh,
but why? Why would you tell what? Randy, okay, tell me about this Longhorn. I don't get it. Why do you like them? Why should I use them?
Well, like I said, man, I guess, and it's from my experience, with other lenders. But to be honest, man, I'm going to just tell them, they're easy to work with. If you have any questions, they don't, shoo you away. They're always, they're just what's the, I guess they're just another, player on the team, that helps, get your team to where, you have to go. And, but for me, man, like I said, communication and the way you guys streamline the whole process of, right from the first, looking at the house from the appraisal down to the, the funding of the deal. It's for me, it's been in every deal we've done, it's been a smooth and pain-free, transition, from the whole way through. And even until the sale of the house, for whenever the title company requests a payoff, there's no issue there. And so, yeah, I mean, for me, I would just say, that the Longhorn, and in my case, man, it's been a very, very big help. And it's given me the confidence to know, like, because I got another deal, too, that I've been looking at. So I'm already, like, I'm about to be like, Jared, hey, we got another deal going. But for me, having you guys, in my corner, it kind of gives me the reassurance, okay, I'm able to get it and not have to worry about any issues going on. Unless it's an issue on, the seller side of things. But for me, man, it's more of a, it gives me more of a little confidence when it comes to acquiring another property. So that's one thing that, for me, is very big, which I'm also, relate to them.
Well, we appreciate your business. So thank you so much for being a part of our team. We were talking hoop before this, so I lied. I said 2 questions. I got a bonus question. I just thought about asking you. I don't know why when you're giving that answer, I was thinking, smooth Euro step to the lane, finishing. Yeah. What's your? Yeah, I know you play some ball for fun. What's your go-to move? Man, you got to get a bucket. What's your go-to move?
So what's funny is, I was I'm not tall even right now. I guess I'm average. But growing up, man, I wasn't even like 5'5". Like I was like probably like 5 feet. But they would always call me the JJ Barea, because how Barea, he was, or John Wall. But man, and I mean, of course, everybody likes to think that they're good at something, But man, me, my handles were pretty good, man.
Okay.
And then also I had the shot too, man. I could hit a 3, man.
A little step back, or I mean,
no, just a regular
just
hook.
Catch and shoot.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Who's gonna win the finals? I mean, we still got a little bit of runway to get there, but
damn, man, we're seeing how Cleveland just destroyed Miami yesterday, and then seeing how Oklahoma destroyed who did they play? Memphis, and they destroyed us, which I'm kind of happy about that, because they knocked out the Mavericks. But man, I think it's gonna be the
Oklahoma City, Cleveland. All right.
But I think I got Cleveland, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's who. And of course, me, I like Jokic. He's a one of a kind player, man. So if it ain't those two, and if Denver can somehow still, I don't know what the series is right now, but they're playing the Clippers. If they can beat the Clippers, man,
look out.
I think they can do something.
Yeah.
You can never, count out Jokic.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, one thing that we know is not going to happen, sadly, is that the Mavs are not going to return to the finals. So maybe in 15 years when they...
Man, we have to rebuild all over again, man.
Yeah, I know. Well, Randy, thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate, like I said, you being a part of our team. It's been fun to kind of witness the success you've had over the last couple years, and looking forward to many more deals in the future.
Oh yeah, no, like I told you from the beginning, man. I got a good feeling, with you guys that I'm gonna be able to grow and keep growing, So for me, I'm just ready. I'm ready, and I already got the next deal, so I'll be texting you. But man,
perfect.
Oh yeah.
Do me a favor. Can we talk about the deal a little bit?
Which one?
The one that the last one that you did.
The one that's on the market, or the last one?
It's currently on market.
We have one on market, and then we have 2 that have been completed.
Or we could talk about that Burke one, because remember that's the one that had an issue with the guy didn't want to get out of the house.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
That's actually a good one.
Yeah, and then so if you're going to talk about one, and then maybe the other, and then if you can send me, do you have like before and afters of these by any chance?
Oh yeah.
I would love to get some before and afters of each of them, and then we can make some content around both around the finished product. So. Do you have numbers on them?
Which one?
Purchase, renovation.
I do.
ARV,
which on the Burke one?
Yeah.
So Burke, I had. Tell me if anything was updated. But 119 purchase, 35 rehab, 215 ARV.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other one, you have that?
Which one?
Is the other closed?
The one that's closed.
I'm just wondering if there are good numbers there, or numbers.
Montclair's the one that's active.
That's the one that's
active. So the one that's closed 173 or 173, 49, 340.
Okay.
So that was 100% as well.
Yeah, perfect. Let's talk about them.
Okay. My handwriting sucks. What that one was. So the other one's Burke. What's the other one that closed? I can't read my own handwriting.
The Willow Glen.
Willow Glen. Yeah. I think there's like a few squiggles.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You got that doctor handwriting.
Yeah, it's awful, man. All right, you ready?
I've been recording.
Okay. All right, let's talk about one of the properties that you've done with us on Burke. What was your experience there, and you know, if there were any challenges, what were those challenges, and how'd you sidestep them?
So for me, this one, man, was kind of a first because there was and he wasn't even, well, he was, you know, not to go too much into their situation, but he was just the boyfriend of the lady that owned the house, and he just wasn't wanting to leave. From the get-go, you know, we went to go check out the house. They told us, like, hey, you know, he'll be out, you know. But whenever I went to go walk the property, he had a big old sign on the front door saying, hey, I'm not scared of your fake, like, what was it, your fake eviction notice and whatnot. And he was already screaming outside saying, I'm not getting out. So for me, I was like, all right, you know, that's this deal. I don't want to keep going, especially with how things are already going just from the beginning, you know. But I told the wholesaler, I was like, hey, you know, I'm not entirely, you know, okay with, you know, that situation right there. If maybe there was a different, you know, experience in that little moment with him being like, oh, yeah, like the guy that's in there, like saying, oh, yeah, I'll be out of here, you know, I would have been like, okay, cool. But, yeah, he wasn't going to leave. He wasn't going to leave. And I was like, okay, well, there was that deal. But a couple of days later, you know, I remember I was telling you, I was like, yeah, I don't think this deal's going to be a good one. We might have to just, you know, scrap this deal. But a couple of days later, the wholesaler's like, hey, I was able to get him out. And in my head, I was like, you know, what the, you know, like cool. You know, for me, I'm like, cool. But then I was like, you know, I had already told you guys that, you know, we probably won't close on this one. So I had to, you know, reach out back to you and kind of see if we could still get it done. And the time that they wanted to close, I felt like, oh, no, it might not work. But then, you know, I got with you, and we were able to, you know, close on it. And it was that house, it was it didn't, like, from the initial look, you know, at the house, it didn't look too beat up, you know. So I was still, you know, happy that we got the deal because it was a nice little house.
Yeah, and the numbers were good. So 119 purchase, 35 repair, 215 ARV. So not a, you know, a super big deal, but we funded it 100%, and obviously, you know, you're able to get that one off the books and have success with that. The other one that, and you got one that's currently in the works, but the other one that, you know, was signed, sealed, and delivered was Willow Glen. And this one was a little bit of a bigger deal, right?
Oh, yeah.
So ARV around, 340. You purchased at a 173, about $50,000 just under that in rehab.
Oh, yeah.
Another 100% purchase and repair coverage. But what... you know, you tell me, what was that one a little bit smoother, or what was your experience there?
That one was a lot smoother. So the wholesaler that actually presented me that property, it's funny, like, he used to work with a different company. I don't know what happened with him and going to, I think he just wanted to do his own thing. But I hadn't talked to this guy, like, in almost like a year and a half. And I remember him. You know, he liked basketball too. You know, so that's why I kind of remember him. But I get a call from a random number, and he's like, his name is Keaton. And he was like, hey, you remember me? I was like, Keaton, that sounds familiar. And I was like, oh, snap, I remember you. and out of nowhere, he just, you know, told me, hey, I got a property, you know, want to see if you're interested. The price he was wanting at first, I thought was a little too high, you know, I was like, But then I started looking at the area, and I was like, you know what? But once I walked the property, that's when I was like, okay, that price you want, I definitely cannot do that. But, you know, so we came to that agreement of the 173. And, that house was you know, it was a big project, but there was no, you know, like for us, you know, from the first deal, you know, we're not scared of, you know, tackling, you know, like when it comes to houses that are destroyed or houses that need, you know, a lot. But yeah, man, that was good, you know, a good deal too. And, you know, since there was no issue, you know, acquiring the house, I already know from then on, you know, the rest is just more of the, you know, just getting it done. Yeah. And it's already, you know, it's already complete. For me, man, it came out so beautiful. It's got like big vaulted ceilings and everything, man. It came out real nice. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Randy.
Yeah, send me some pictures of that, and we'll add it to it. I'll send you this video, and we'll knock that out.